then you're a bit stuck. So we're right to be worried about this. But it's a seesaw, because people expect personalisation. They expect the content to be relevant to them. But you can only make it relevant to them if you've got their data and you can track what they're doing. And when you use it, you get higher response rates when you actually are able to tailor that content. But the privacy side of it, people are worried. People are really worried about what you're going to do with their data. There have been examples in the UK of charities who have gathered that data through donations and then sold it to commercial companies, credit card companies and things like that. It's awful, it's absolutely dreadful, and understandably, normal people are just opting out and saying, I don't want my data to be given.
Just a thing there, because very often we get requests in USUS, could you please send us the list of the partners in USUS? And that's something also we always say no to, because for some organization it would be really handy if they could get the USUS partner list and they can start emailing you on their different offers and stuff. So I think you constantly will have that kind of request coming your way,
Yeah.
even though you don't think about it, that somebody will be interested in your data, but then you have to kind of say, well, this data is collected and used in that way, you can't send it on.
So what happens is that there was a recent survey done in the UK about what are the factors in giving your data, and trusting the organisation was by far the most important driver in somebody handing over their personal data, well above special offers or saving money. And the thing that came out was that consumers want more transparency and control over their data. 90% of people said they wanted more control over their personal information that they give to companies and how it's stored. 2/3 of UK consumers believed that it was important that companies tell them how they're collecting and using the information that they gather. I took my little boy to a museum recently, that you have to pay to get into. It was a space museum. And we were at the desk, and the person at the desk said, right, what's your email address? So I gave her my email address. What's your postcode? Gave her my postcode. She went, right, thanks, you can go in there. I went, hang on a minute. She picked the wrong person to do this to. I was like, what are you going to do with that information? Oh, nothing. It's just so that, because by paying to come today, you can get in for free all year. You just bring this ticket back and then we can find you on the computer and you can come back in again. Great, okay. So you're not going to use that information for anything else? No. So you're not going to send me any marketing stuff? Oh yeah, I'm going to send. But we can opt you out of that if you like. I was like, well, at which point were you going to tell me that? What else are you going to do with that data? Well, nothing. Well, I'm not sure I believe you now because you said that a minute ago, and then, so I wrote to the CEO. You can imagine what that letter was like. So it's this transparency and trust and control that people want, and I think it is a big issue for us in CRM. Personalisation and privacy are on a collision course, is what this survey said, and I think there's some truth in that. So secondly, power. Stop dictating to customers. It's your customers, not you, who have the power. If you think about it, in the 1950s and 60s, the industry was very advertising-led. You saw an advert, probably in a newspaper. You phoned up, asked them to send you a brochure. The company sends you a brochure. The information in it is all you have to go on about making a decision about that product, and that's all been produced by the company who make the product. And you read and you go, oh, this looks really good, this lawnmower or whatever it is. And then you go and buy it, and if you're not happy with it, you can complain to the company, but probably nobody's going to know that you've complained to the company, and if they don't do anything about it, your voice isn't heard. There were also fewer advertising channels then, so it was mass advertising, wasn't it? So it had to be very generic. There was no segmentation. And the products were very standard. It was a kind of one size fits all. You know, there was one type of lawnmower, and if you didn't want that, then stop it. You know, you got no chance. There was no way of personalising it or changing it to meet your needs. And the power was all in the hands of the company, wasn't it? And they dictated the terms to customers who had fairly low expectations. Well, think about the world now, and we have review sites. You know, if somebody's unhappy with their vacuum cleaner, they can put it on a review site, and millions of people can see that. If you're thinking of buying something, in your world, TripAdvisor is completely, it's a nightmare for some people, but it's completely changed. You can't hide anymore if you give bad service. It's out there for all to see. So the power has transferred from the company to the customer. And I think there's a number of ways in which that's happened. Firstly, the product information, as I've described, the company was able to dictate the information that you had access to about their products. That's completely changed. But also product consumption and development as well. And who holds the data? The customer can choose to withhold their data or not to give it to you. So the product information, as we've said, review sites, all of that kind of stuff. The customer power in relation to consumption and development, people can now choose what they watch, when they watch it, so the growth of TV, films on demand. This is a big problem for us in theatre, in the theatre world, that we still have performances happening at 7:30 on a Monday night. People want to be able to choose when they consume things now. The actual development of products the power is being moved into the hands of the consumer. You think about gaming. I don't know very much about gaming. My boys are 9 and 7 and they're just starting to get into Minecraft. And it's opened a whole new world to me, what happens, you know, all these Minecraft mods that these people can go in and change stuff. I'm like, oh my God, you know, you have access to the code to change it. And apparently Grand Theft Auto is one of the biggest games for these gamers going in and changing, and the companies are giving access to gamers to actually change it, whereas previously they were going, no, it's ours, it's our copyright, it's our IP, you can't change anything, and now they're kind of going, no, there's a whole community out there that change these games and that want to, and that it's our job to give them the tools to do that, which it completely fries my brain to think about it. So whereas previously the company was trying to protect the integrity of its product, now it's actually opening up and giving people the tools to change the product. So the lines between the producer and the consumer are completely blurring, and the company moves from being the producer of the product to the aggregator of products and experiences. And it's fostered a feeling that we as the consumers can be partners in that process. So I recently went on holiday to France in the summer, and I don't know, do you have Jaffa cakes here? No, they're like, in England, they're like these little, it's like a sponge disc with a little bit of orange sort of jelly, and then all covered in chocolate. And they're like a biscuit, but they've recently been ruled in the UK that they are in fact a cake, which means they have to charge VAT on them. They say, oh, big controversy over this. Anyway, they only do these Jaffa cakes in orange flavour because they're called Jaffa cakes. I went on holiday to France. In the supermarket, there's a whole range of these in different flavours. Raspberry ones, pear, apple, gorgeous. I was there buying them all up, took them all home with me. And I took a picture of one of these, and I tweeted McVitie's, who make the Jaffa cakes, and said, could you start making these in raspberry flavour, please, because they're lovely. And they tweeted me back, and I was like, this is great, I'm changing the world, I'm changing. And I wouldn't have dreamt of doing that 5 years ago. It's this idea that I feel empowered, that I, as the consumer, have the ability to influence the product. I probably am slightly mad, but you know, I don't feel completely mad doing that. That seems a legitimate thing to do, and it was legitimised by the fact that they replied to me. I still haven't seen them yet, they haven't produced them yet, but I hope I'm going to get the first packet when they do. So, product consumption and development. and the co-creation thing. Disney recognised this quite a long time ago, so they changed their Disney destinations, I'm talking about, so theme parks and stuff like that. They changed their CRM department to a CMR department. This is when I start losing the will to live. So they talked about customer managed relationships rather than customer relationship management. So it's the idea that the customer manages their relationship with you rather than you managing the relationship with the customer. And I think there's some truth in that. It's typical Disney. Their philosophy is that our guests invite us into their lives and ultimately manage our presence and relationship with them. And I think, the idea that they then created a holiday planning tool, which they put on their website. Previously, Disney were pretty bad at you had to go into a travel agent and somebody had to sit there on a computer going, oh, you want to go on Wednesday afternoon, or this is the price, or magically it would come out, and it wasn't very transparent. Whereas now they have this planning tool, you can do it all yourselves, you can compare different days of the week, and it's all very open. And they put the customer in charge of that relationship. So I've been reading this guy's book, really interesting book. I got about halfway through and then gave up because it got a bit techy on me later on. But he talks about the company moving from being a producer of products to an aggregator of products, services and experiences that give the customer the means to meet their own agendas. So it's a real shift. And then customer power in terms of their data. So who has the data? Who owns the data? And there's not just privacy issues here. There's not just the stuff I talked about in terms of customers being wary about giving you their data. There's also the social media firms, Facebook in particular, who basically own all of that data, and you may not be getting access to that customer data because it's going via Facebook. So Facebook ticketing is coming in very strongly in my sector, and we're trying to get Facebook to integrate with the ticketing systems, because at the moment if you buy a ticket on Facebook, the theatre doesn't know who that person is, you don't get that data. And if that grows and grows, we're going to be really stuffed in terms of the CRM we want to do, because we've no idea who a whole section of our customers are. And Facebook has, last time I looked, it's probably gone up since then, 1.71 billion active monthly subscribers, and that dwarfs any customer database that we could create. Twitter, 5 million tweets per day. And if these giants own that data and not the companies, and you have no access to that, it makes your CRM efforts much harder, puts all the power in their hands. And we've seen, I'm loath to mention Trump, but we've seen the effects of that, the Facebook effect in the American elections, and Zuckerberg is now having to address the fact that they're saying he's going to act about fake news stories having influenced the American election. So many fake news stories, wrong, not even from any trusted source, influencing what's been happening. So the power is really shifting, and to some extent there's not a lot we can do about that, but we need to be aware it's happening, and certainly some of the ticketing companies that I'm working with are trying to integrate that information with Facebook, and that will certainly help. So customers are choosing who has their data, and there's this new term called vendor, this is so American, vendor relationship management. So, if you come here to learn about CRM, I've now completely confused you. Vendor relationship management is the concept. There is something in it which I understand, which is the customer, in the vendor relationship management world, the customer would have all their data, all their personal data, they would keep that up to date themselves, and they would allow certain applications or businesses to look at that data, which they could switch on or off as they choose. Like you can with Facebook, I guess, to some extent. And you're responsible for updating that data. You choose who can see that, who can look at it. If you move house, you change the address, so it's brilliant because then you're always keeping that up to date. But you're the one who controls who's in and out of that. And at the moment there's various tech companies working on ways of doing it that way around, and I think that's probably the way it will go, that we will have our own sort of personal data account which we manage. So in the healthcare industry, the idea that instead of your doctor's records sitting somewhere, in the UK they're just putting them all on a big server, which is making us all very worried. All our medical records will be in a single place, but they're managed by the health authority. The idea would be that I would have my health records and then I would grant access to whoever I wanted to see that. So I think that will happen in time. So, and then trust. There is a something in America called the Edelman Trust Barometer, which looks at who or what kinds of organisations or people trust in order to make decisions or buy products. And in 1998, only a third of people would have said that their most trusted source was a person like themselves. In 2016, that's 78%. And that's more than the banks, institutions, businesses, government, academics, experts. So this is the same survey. My friends and family, they trust information. This is on social networking sites. They trust friends and family over employees of the company, elected officials. And this is my Brexit moment, I'm afraid. This is what happened with Brexit, that we had wrongly thought, those of us on the Remain side, had wrongly thought that all the stuff that the governor of the Bank of England was saying, that, you know, economists, academics, experts were all saying this would be a disaster for Britain. Everyone's like ignoring it, completely ignoring it, because their friends are going, no, we're much better leaving the EU because we would, with no evidence at all, other than their mate said so. And what was interesting to me personally was that I didn't see it coming at all. I was completely shocked, partly because I was in my little Facebook bubble, which brings me to segmentation, self-segmentation. I have surrounded myself with left-leaning, liberal people like me because they're my friends. You know, I'm not friendly with right-wing fascists, basically, racists. I'm not friendly with them, funnily enough. And so all my friends in my community, all the stuff we were sharing was like, yeah, they're all idiots, they're all racist, labelling all of those people in a really unhelpful way and not actually understanding what was going on. So we were surrounded